They say that a father is a child's first hero and a daughter's first love. But behind the hero's cape and the provider's title, there lives a man.
It's like person just carry responsibility, knock for your head, say, oh yeah, this is now your new role.
And then they gave us a list of things to buy.
It was ridiculous because you're like, wow, babies eat this much, and then you have the diapers, Muflix and the rest of them, and you're like, babies shit this much.
A man who is often expected to be a pillar of strength without ever being shown where he's allowed to crack.
If you see a man crying, you yourself will be worried.
Globally, we celebrate motherhood, the sacrifice, the labor, the beauty, and of course we should. But today, we are moving past the whole stories of the silent provider or the distant authority. We're here to talk about the fear of repeating the past and the profound, quiet joy of building a legacy.
I didn't have both parents living together. At some point, I lived with my mom. When I was 2, I left my mom and started living with my dad.
I would be honest with you, I still find it difficult communicating with my dad as much as I should be.
When we had a car coming, immediately we run, take our books. Even when you feel like reading or you don't feel like reading, we just take our books, and start to read.
I am joined today by 2 incredible men who have agreed to be vulnerable, to be honest, and help us understand what it truly means to build a family into this world. Mr. Joseph Habe, a production engineer and the father of 2 amazing children. Mr. Munachi Unkekepo, who runs a growth marketing company, also a father of 2 amazing children. Gentlemen, welcome to the Diary of Fatherhood. It is often said that men become the father they wished, or the father they prayed, they wished to have, or they had thought they would have. But when you look at your life journey, which part of your own father do you think you see in you? And which part do you think you are consciously making an effort to, either put aside or just keep? So please, before you answer the question, I would like you to just, take us a little bit back into where you're coming from when you were a young man. Or young boys, right? Let's talk about that a bit.
Well, my childhood was, a bit of a mixed bucket, if you ask me. And I think that's typical with, traditional households. My parents were, but the good thing about it was that it was a healthy mix, right? My mom, was the soft one, and my dad was the disciplinarian, the person we all feared. Person when when we hear his car horn, everybody comports themselves, that kind of thing. So, but growing older, when we were young, we didn't really understand why we had to, always cower, or fear him. But I think growing up and, maturing a little bit kind of like made me understand a little bit more why, that way still had some value, attached to it. Focusing on my dad because this is about fatherhood. He wasn't the easiest to, be with. He wasn't the friendliest of our parents. It was usually his way or the highway. But in between all the shouts, the cakes, the disciplinary actions, you could still feel that there was a conscious effort to mold us to be, the best versions of ourselves. If you really think about it, growing up in, the different spheres that we eventually encountered in, whether in school with our teachers or whether in secondary school with our prefects in the dormitories and stuff, we could see somehow the same pattern, instances where people, our elders or people who have been set, upon us, just trying to mold us to be better versions of ourselves. Ultimately, that seemed to be, the recurring pattern. So taking it back down to the domestic household, you could see why, there was value, with what our dad did for us then. And I mean, ultimately, he was also still a very loving man. Our school fees were never delayed, and he bought us gifts. And, I can remember when I got a bike, I got my first bike from him and how excited I was. So you could still see that love, there somewhere. So it wasn't as if he hated us and he wanted to kill us and he was the next thing after the devil. No, there was still that intentional, ability. And I think, I mean, personally, I feel I was so blessed to be in such a household because not everybody could, say the same about their own households. Yeah.
Okay, that's a beautiful one. But before we, go deep in, maybe I'll just let's hear from Mr. Habi.
All right.
Knows that is all. Just a little bit about you.
Yeah. So for me, my childhood, will I say, just slightly different from your own story as well. But for me, I didn't have both parents living together. So I lived, at some point I lived with my mom. When I was 2, I left my mom and started living with my dad. And the reason why that happened was because she felt, as a lady, she can't take care of me, I need to stay with my dad. Okay. So that, staying with the man, you get all the discipline you need and all the trainings that you deserve, So she took me to my dad. So I stayed with my dad up until, I think when I was 19, I left my dad and started living with my mom. So my dad also is not the type that is also somebody that we feared, when I mean fear. He was someone we feared. You don't speak, when we had a car coming, his car arriving, in the garage, immediately we run, take our books. Even when you feel like reading or you don't feel like reading, we just take our books, and start to read. I didn't like that growing up as a child because it didn't create any form of relationship between us, the children, and my dad. We saw him as someone that we feared. There wasn't any relationship even up till today. So that's a little bit of my own background.
Thank you so much. So is there any is there something particular that you see in your dad and you feel like, no, this I'm going to leave behind, in this present stage I'm in? I don't want to bring this into my home.
Yes, a lot. For me, a lot of things. And the kind of home, because my dad, because I came from a polygamous home, I saw a lot of things, from different angles. So I wanted to have a balance in my home. And that decision, I took it when I was even a teenager, to keep to myself, up until I'm ready to settle in, get married to the right person, start raising children. So there are a lot of things that I told myself I wouldn't carry into, my own family that I saw, from my dad, a lot of them.
So polygamy is one of them.
Polygamy is one of them. Not allowing my children to fear me as a father. I don't want to put that fear in them. I want them to respect me as a father, because when they fear me, it takes away their self-esteem. It takes a lot of things, in the child. It takes away a lot of things in the child. Then even that relationship, you won't find it in the child. Within father and son relationship, or father and daughter relationship will be lost, when they begin to fear you. But when they respect you for being their dad, you have that relationship and that closeness with them.
And the stupid thing about that, that especially the communication thing, it follows you all the way down here. Yeah. I would be honest with you, I still find it difficult communicating with my dad as much as I should be, and now that I'm married, unfortunately, it has also kind of spilled into my father-in-law too, and, whenever my wife is like, oh, you don't call my father, and I'm like, man, I think there's some trauma that I'm still dealing with, I mean, living the way I, grew up and stuff. So it's important to understand how damaging that could be in the long run. So it's critical that you ensure you build the right kind of foundation, because whatever you build, is going to follow you all the way.
Correct.
You know, imagine you're 75 and still your kid is not calling you, you know, or trying to check up on you or trying to look after you. I don't think it's the right thing. I don't think anybody would, any father would be happy about that, you know.
Wow. So the foundation is key. Correct. Foundation. As you're both speaking, you know, I'm reflecting at it's, you know, it means a whole lot, right? Where parents or fathers, you know, they just feel it's just about the then. Now, this child is small and let's handle it that way, forgetting that this child is going to be 25, 30, and, you know, it's a relationship that you build that actually builds. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. So quickly, there's a moment for every man, right, where having a child turns to being a father, which you're here now. Was there any specific moments or crisis or joy, right, where the weight of that responsibility clicked for you that, oh, now I'm a father? Yes.
It happened for me. It was birth of my first child, my daughter. You know, we were at the hospital and my wife had gone in. Unfortunately, she had minor complications because she had some fibroid issues that, you know, kind of like made her pregnancy journey a little bit curious. But no issues. The only issue was that she couldn't have a vaginal birth, so we had to opt for CS. So if this was news that we were getting, you know, that we had to prepare for, it probably would have been better. But it was there when she was in labor that the doctor is saying, oh, we can't do vaginal, that we've been waiting for. She has to do CS. So they had to start calling the epidural guy, you know, and then the whole dynamics changed, right? So I think for me, it was about the how rapidly the situation changed and, you know, the realization of how risky the pregnancy, you know, the journey had developed into. But then when she finally gave birth and I heard my daughter's cries, you know, the washing relief, you know, that, oh, they are safe. Yeah. But then after that relief, now comes the fact that, you be papa now. You know, you're not responsible for two people, not just one, you know. And I think my younger sister was with me then. It was just me, my younger sister, and my wife was in there, no other family member, but she caught it on video. Like, I had tears rolling down my eyes. I was like, she was asking, just like you're asking us questions, you're like, oh, how does it feel? And I'm like, man, I'm short of words because it was like, it's like person just carry responsibility, knock for your head, say, oh yeah, this is now your new role. You know, you realize that you now have a child that is always going to be looking up to you, you know, for provision, for sustenance, for education, you are now 50% responsible for making the right choices, putting the right people in place, exposing her to the right people, the right environment that will eventually shape 50 years, 60 years, 70 years of our lives. It's a huge responsibility. And I think at that point, it was just like a massive weight on my shoulders, like, Nami be this, you know. But yeah, I think that was that for me.
Yeah. So for me, as well, it was the birth of our first child, Nathan. So we were in the clinic then when he gave birth to him, and then I was outside because they called me to come in. I said, no, I can't stay in. They said, come and cut the, what they call that, the umbilical cord. I said, no, I don't want to even be there when she's even pushing the thing. I cannot stand it. I don't like when I see as if she's in pain and I can't help.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I said, let me stay outside, don't worry. When she's done, I'll come in. So after she finished, she gave normal natural birth, and then I went in. And when I saw the child, I was like, wow, I'm a father. But I didn't feel any type of way until when we left the clinic, we went home, and then they gave us a list of things to buy. When I saw the list, I said, wow, when I saw it, the food, the type of food, even not any specific kind of food. And when I saw the list, was like almost 300 and something. I'm like, plus the things I need to buy. And I said, wow, to be a man. That time, I'm somebody that does a lot of investments, so I'd already put some money aside. I need to do some investment.
Yeah.
And then when I just looked, I said, I have to go and take. I didn't even hesitate. When I said, a responsibility, I'm not a father. I just took it immediately. And now use it and bought that thing. And then later, I told my wife, I said, do you realize you're not a mother? I am not a father. That was when it dawned on me. Actually, and I went and started calculating things.
I think for me too, that was also a light bulb moment when you had to get to like a store like Ebano and you have to go to the baby section.
I'm telling you.
You're like, see me in baby section. That reminds me, whoever made Kenda meal, that baby food, because my child was ripping through one, tin of Kenda meal in like 2 weeks, and that thing was like what? At that time, it was like 8K per.
Mine was even a week.
What?
That's Aptamil.
Aptamil. No, I ran from Aptamil. I was on Aptamil was. I said no. I know they thought that one. Let me even try Kenda meal first. At least I could probably afford this one. But it was ridiculous because you're like, wow, babies eat this much. And then you have the diapers, Moflix and the rest of them, and you're like, baby shit this much. You're spending so much money just because people want to shit.
I believe you.
There's some kind of mentality that, it does for you. Yeah. If you're a young man and, you're conscious about your money and stuff, at some point you'll be like, no, I can't deal with this. Yes. But now you have no choice. Yes. You're a father. If do you want your child to be unhealthy? No, you want her to have the best. Yeah. You want him to have the best. So it may pain you. You may have to put off some things just to make this happen. But fortunately, across time, it now became a little bit easier because we eventually eased into the routine.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So fatherhood comes with a lot of responsibility.
A lot of money.
And money.
In fact, just to add also, since I'm somebody that, before I got married and started giving birth to children, raising a family, I'm somebody that my gadgets, I love gadgets, so I use the latest of that year. Even my phones. In fact, I will do pre-order of my Samsung phone. Before it gets to me, I'll do pre-order. So then my colleagues in the office used to tell me, all these things will soon stop. All this pre-ordering you're doing, all this, it will soon stop. By the time you get married now and start giving birth to children. When I gave birth to the first child, I used my phone for the first time. I used Samsung phone for 5 years, for full 5 years. So these are the things that come with it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Social media shows us there's this super dad moment, and we all know, right? But real fatherhood for me happens in those nights, quiet nights, where there's no noise. It's just you and your wife and that child or the children. Sometimes these times can be really difficult. I think our parents, some of them went through it. They understood, they felt this is how I'm going to handle it, and that's how they handled it. We are learning. But they also show, the strength and personality of our children, because in those moments, is either you're telling the child, go sleep, and the child says, no, Dad, I'm not going to sleep, or runs into the room and comes out, right? How are these, these periods or these seasons of your life, how has it built patience in you? Is there any patience, are there things you've changed and you felt like, no, I don't want to, trail this path, because if I continue with this child this way, it won't be a good one. So just share.
Okay, let me go. So for me, there are a lot of moments. But one of the things I always tell my wife as well, is that we need to be patient, as we train them, because patience is key. And one messy moment for me was one time my wife traveled to Port Harcourt, and then I had to stay with the kids. So that day, that period, I worked from home. Good thing was it was on a Friday, so I worked from home, and then in the morning I woke up as usual, prepared breakfast for them, and just gave it to them in their room, and then went back to do work. I was just busy. I didn't put their cartoon. They were like, I think 3 and 2. So they were just in their room, and then I was just busy doing work. I didn't come out for like an hour, 2 hours. When I just came out to see them. The food, they've messed up the whole place. And before then, I was so tired, they've messed up the whole place. But because so when I saw it, normally it's something that I would just be angry, very quickly and say, why are you? So I just said, it should be nice for me to, just lash out on them like that. So what I did was, I just said, Nathan and Zoe, what have you guys done? You've messed up the whole place. So I just told them, okay, just go to your bed. Don't come down. I'll come and fix it. I went back to work, did what I need to do, and then I came back, cleaned the whole place, and everything. And the funny thing, these children came and told me, Daddy, thank you for helping us. And I don't even know where they learned it from. I said, thank you. I said, okay. So I just learned to be even in the midst of the things they do, just to be patient, because again, from what I saw growing up, those are some of the things I want to carry on, to them, because at the end of the day, they are kids. There are certain stages in their life that they need to express themselves as children. They will break things, they will drop things on the floor, they will mess up things. In fact, if they don't mess up things, you need to ask yourself questions. They must mess up something, so how you react is very important, with them.
Yeah. Man, I think for me it's not so much, patience is involved, but I think tolerance is actually a more suitable, approach for me. And my parenting style, I lead a team, and one of the roles that I have is to, solve problems, for the team. One of the things about solving problems is, if you want to solve problems quickly, then you have to preempt those problems, right? It's a skill that I kind of thrust into my fatherhood journey, right? Now, what it means in essence is prepare for any eventuality as much as possible. Kids gonna get messy. Kids are going to get on your nerves. Kids are going to drive you to the world. They are going to do all the do, undo, redo. Oh, I forgot to mention, I was the literal black sheep of my family, so I'm a very good, case study to be able. So I was like, I knew most of the things I did when I was young. I went as far as breaking my dad's clock, right? And guilt was washed over me, and I felt like I could get away with it, so I thrust the clock under one of the cushions in the parlor and then just went away. And then my elder brother came, sat on and broke it some more. So when it came, it was not like, oh, who broke the clock? It was like, oh, it was my elder brother, So I used myself as a case study, and I'm like, oh, if I was this mischievous, if I was this, if I could get in so much trouble, then I would expect my offspring to be able to do the same thing. So using my skill set, I kind of plan for it, right? So at every point in time, while they are developing, we think about where they are, what kinds of, situations they are going to find themselves in, and then plan for them. So it goes as granular as even, whether they are supposed to be using silver plates or plastic plates, what kind of dustbin should be in the house, what kind of, the colors of, their towels or stuff, just very random things. We learn every day about, their nuances. And again, because they are two, they are almost the same age, but they are two totally different personalities. So you actually have to do it, for each and every one of them. My daughter doesn't eat this, my son eats it. My son doesn't eat this, my daughter eats this. So you have to plan for the eventuality of, so if there's no food in the house, at least let their best meals be there and you'll be fine. If there's this, just go around the house future-proofing, and, planning for every eventuality. And to be honest, that will give you more peace of mind, because when the inevitable happens, you will be well prepared for it. So rarely have I had to, cause a scene because they did something, because following that method meant that I preempted anything that they would eventually do. So when it actually got, I'll be like, oh, I knew they were going to do it, so I shouldn't even get hungry, that kind of thing. I remember when we had when we put up our Christmas tree, and my son has this habit of going to pick the balls of the Christmas tree. So what I did when I was fixing the latest Christmas tree was to take a tape and actually fix those balls to the tree properly. So the first time he dragged and the thing no show, he dragged again, the thing no show, he dragged again, the thing no show. He left it. And that's how the Christmas tree has remained. Because he has, so you plan for it. You've seen that this is how he messes up the whole place. And, you get, so it's a challenge on its own, and it's really exciting how you can get to, make these things happen.
And also, I believe it comes with their age, right?
Yes. Yep. At every point in time, a new when they start getting boyfriends and girlfriends, that's another ball game entirely. So you have to plan for those ones too. So
it's essential that fathers are prepared.
They have to be prepared. You have to be prepared. You have to take learnings from your past, take learnings from your present, take learnings from as much sources as possible, because there's no real, manual or hard and fast rule to this, because we're dealing with people here. People are unique. They grow and have their unique perspectives based on what they're exposed to. But you could preempt, and also, kind of manage, their exposure to be able to align them to a proper, mindset, so you have to be intentional about all those things, all of them, because each and every one of them are important if you want them to actually toe the path that you want them to.
And then just to add to, I used to tell my wife something that for every child, after their birthday, just expect something new.
Yeah.
After each birthday, expect something new. So when we celebrate their birthdays, we look out for something, and we always see it. They will see a new trait, and we just try to start working on it. We start to. I have these charts I downloaded when they were, I think, about a year. The chart tells you what to expect for every age group. So we use that chart, to also look out for those things that we expect and try to work and plan for them.
And sometimes you find things out by accident.
Yes.
For instance, my son is, he's a boy, so he's all over the place, and he's really, really energy. So to keep him in one place is usually a struggle. We were kind of like moderating, buying toys. We didn't really want them to have like toys like Barbie dolls and all those things, because we just thought they were distracting, but they go out there, see other kids with it, and they come and keep on yanning. So we try to be a little bit, creative in the kinds of stuff we get for them. Some toys we get for them, they just play with it once, throw it away, and are back to their, especially my son. Until one day, something just told me, get a puzzle. Jigsaw puzzle. The first puzzle I got for this guy, this boy just took it. This was what, 3 or 4? When he was 3 or 4, took the thing and disappeared into his own world. Like we did not hear his voice again for the next maybe 2.5 hours. It was unheard of. It had, as in, my wife thought he was sick, but he was just there, just
Trying to fix it.
And he fixed it. And that's where we realized that he had a particular knack for puzzles. So every other week, we're getting a new puzzle, and he's finishing it, and if not, he will not rest. So that, is hitting a whole lot of things on different fronts. It's sharpening his mind. It's keeping him quiet. Thank you, Jesus. And educating him too. So we found it out just by accident. I just said, let me just try puzzle. I didn't even know if he was going to like it, but that's what happened. So there's also the finding things out by chance, but I think that's where, you know, as a father, you have to be present because you will never be able to know those things if you're not there.
You're not there. Very true.
We also have this tendency, like father, like son. So if, for instance, I play music, I play a couple of instruments, so my son must be, you know, instrumentalist like me. Or my bought this boy piano, he looked at it. I bought him guitar, he looked at it. I say, my own don't finish now. I cannot even try that side. So sometimes don't necessarily think that they are going to follow your path. They will definitely find their own path somewhere. It's for you, your own role is to be able to guide them, you know, to be able to find that thing that hits with them. And once you find it, double down on it as much as possible.
So presence is really presence, very sort. Then that takes me to a question I'll quickly ask. I was not going to ask that now. So how do you integrate, right, your career and family? How would you advise, you know, men, or how have you done it over time that you're able to just, you know, make things work with your career and also, you know, being a father?
So for me, it's intentionality. You have to be intentional because especially those of us that live in Lagos, if you are very busy from traffic, from office, you enter another busy traffic, get home, you know, you're very tired. So what I do is, because it's something I've already put in my plan, you know, that I will do intentionally. So after work, I know that I must spend 1 hour at least with them, you know, to do the things they love. So sometimes when I get back from work, their homework is already done. My wife will do that with them. So what I do is I just get to their room, you know, I try to ask them, what did you learn today? You know, just 1 hour, you know, before I leave them, before they go to bed. I just ask them, how are you? What did you learn today? You know, in their room with them, you know, on the bed. So I try to have that conversation with them every day, you know, as much as possible. And also, I also make sure I participate in what they do in school. Even I have the numbers of their teacher. You know, before they communicate, they like communicating with the mothers more. So I went directly and told them, yes, communicate with the mother, but always put me in the picture. I want to see what they are doing, the information you pass. So I'm always there with them as well in school, in their homework as well, you know, as much as possible. Over the weekend, I try to also participate to teach them. In fact, I was telling my wife that now that one of them is going to primary, I would need more of his attention. You know, I want to be seeing what they're doing more because he's going into more serious things now. You know, I want to be seeing what he's doing more, you know. So I try to make sure I look into these things, you know, when they're having difficulty in any subject, I always come in, you know. A typical example was when they were doing, my daughter was doing, what they call it, these Roman numerals. So she was having this challenge one day, so I was in the room, I was working. So I saw the mom was trying to explain the thing to her, was trying to explain. So, and I came out. And then I said she should allow me, let me just attend to her, she should face the boy. So, and I said, okay. I carried her, I saw that she was also struggling. And I told the mom, just leave her. Just allow her, let her just be. And just face her, leave her. I went into the room, finished what I was doing. I was just thinking, what was my head was, how will I approach this subject that will make sense to her? Because she was almost crying. So I said, how will I come back and make so? And I went and God just gave me one inspiration. I just came back. I just used her fingers. I just did that thing for her, showed her everything, and then I went back. So after she got, even those things she was struggling with, she started, you know, getting them correctly. So she went to the mom. So the mom now called her and was testing the thing that I did, and it was working. She now came to me and said, do you know that thing you did worked? I said, yes, it worked. But do you know what I just did? That whenever you see them struggle like that, just take a step back, leave them, go back and figure out why the child, he's not getting that thing, you know, and try to see how you make it a little bit easy, you know, for that child, you know. So that is, you know, being involved with them, you know, be there, be part of it. Since that day, even the lady, my daughter, will always come and thank her, Daddy, thank you for this, you know, for that thing, you know. So it's important, you know, that we stay involved, be intentional with them. So that's the way I try to manage it, you know.
So, as you spoke, I remember when I was when I was in primary school. So I remember my dad was going to teach me fraction. Hey, God, that's one of the worst days. My dad stopped the car, the center of the road, because I did not understand fraction. Hey, in short, I was praying. I said, Daddy, it was the really bad day for me, because I'm like, my dad said, so you don't know this thing. The only saving grace I had was someone who knew my dad stopped. Because it was the way to my school. Yeah. Stop there. My dad was teaching me.
Wow.
It was such a messy one that day. And then the man just, Mr. Juba, and my dad said, because of that joy, he just said, well, hey, let's go. We'll stay at home. Hey, I said, God, thank you.
Yes, let's go.
And so then I was very scared. Yeah. Because when he wants to teach me, I'm like, I know it. I don't want to bring it. So I think as much as presence is good, intentionality, we need to be, able to
so that they don't push them away.
Understand, There's a way you can teach children.
Teach them, yes.
They are that they understand better. Okay, that's fine. Mr. Mona, please, we need that from you as well.
Okay. The intentionality is there. I think my own method is I try to, give them, they're in a developmental phase, right, consistently. So I see that as a journey for them. So the challenge I have for them is, what new thing have you learned, Now, here's the thing. As a father, I cannot say that I am the only one responsible for your growth and development. I just have a part to play, right? In fact, the way it's already panning out, the mom, my wife, their mother is way more in their lives than I am, right? So instead of trying to be Lord and Master over the entire, process, I just kind of like pick a niche, which I can engage them in such a way that they look forward to this from their dad. Okay? So for me, it is, whenever I get, after a busy day and stuff, and then I get home, I keep challenging them to do like I do, because kids learn by, doing what they see, or hearing what they see other people doing. So what I do for them is I come back and say, hey, this is the new thing I've learned today, or this is the new thing I've done today. What have you done? So it becomes like a competitive challenge.
I like that, yes.
So, I learned this today. What did you learn? My boy will come, I learned how to do this one. I learned how to do. What that does for them is that now they know that if dad is going to ask at the end of the day, this is the question he's going to ask. They know what the question is, so they anticipate it, and then they get ready for it. And I think it has helped to always bring, new stuff, or at least get them to move a little bit further, from where they currently are, either in education or in their Christian lives, or in, friendship and relationships with people. Oh, you made a new friend today. Okay, who's the friend? Tell me about the friend, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I watched this program. It can be anything. But all I just want to see is that you are actually actively looking for something new. It must be, the caveat is that it must be something that you didn't know yesterday. So if you tell me something that I'll be like, you already knew how to do that one. I say, I run away and go and start looking for something else. So I think, right now it seems like just a game, but I see that as a model that if you follow that kind of path, you will develop into, you develop a process with which would help you, gather something new, a new knowledge every day. Whether it's a new is a new formula for solving right man's principle, or is it a new way of doing a particular process? So you would always be learning. We're in a world of innovation, things that people are learning new things, or the world is quickly and rapidly changing. I want my kids to be able to realize that, look, how you were yesterday must not be how you are tomorrow. So that's the big vision. But it starts small as what new thing did you know? Did you learn today?
Awesome. So learnings. Okay, so I have 5 words for you.
Okay.
Transparency, prioritization, empathy, discipline, and leadership. If you had to pick the one that is the hardest for a man to master in today's world, which would that be and why?
Transparency, empathy,
Leadership,
discipline,
prioritization.
prioritization.
Yes.
I say empathy. Because empathy is an emotional construct, and usually it's the moms that are more emotionally, invested. So for a father to, master that and present that front, it takes courage. I won't even lie to you. It takes courage for me to be to show empathy. I mean, if you just think about it, logically and stuff, because as a dad, you're supposed to be like, I believe you're supposed to be like the strong pillar, the unmovable. Daddy always has all the answers and, is never moved by, what is me? And all those things, they face them, So if you now have to show that, first of all, I think it's a challenge to be able to be who you are and also be able to show that, show that part. I don't think any of the rest of, the qualities compared to, us having to master empathy. But then the the advantage of being able to master that is a lot, because just thinking about it, if my dad had shown a little bit more empathy, I'll probably be a whole lot closer to him right now. There were some things that, some situations that we felt, he handled them poorly. If he had just shown some empathy, showed some understanding, showed some tolerance, we'll probably have a better relationship now. So I think most men struggle, with that. And we need to be able to change the narrative to say, look, you have to, especially for your kid, they need, this kind of, they need you to show some form of empathy. They are going to make mistakes, they are going to fall, they are going to fumble, they are going to fail. You should, as much as the mom is there to say, oh, my son, oh, my daughter, sorry, you'll get it next time. You as a dad too should not just say, why didn't you get it this time? Why do the people that got it, do they have 2 heads? That kind of thing. You have to also show that, look, son, I'm proud of you either way. I know you know this thing. You may have failed now, but you won't fail forever. You need to do, I'm going to help you push through. I'm going to help you get better. I'm still proud of you regardless. I think that's showing empathy, and men need to be able to master that too.
So true.
I can't tell you I've mastered it.
As you spoke, because even, we knew growing up, men don't cry.
Yeah, men don't cry.
Even sometimes,
men are very strong.
You have to be strong.
If you see a man crying, you yourself will be worried. What my wife used to say this thing, when we eventually moved over there, she was like, babe, I trust you. Now you are the look. If you present a focused front, like what's up, am I going to follow you? But the day you will sit down and say, oh, woe is me, what would you expect me to do?
Exactly.
So whether things are going back, men are not expected to show, because it's immediately, if I come into the house and I'm moody, the whole house becomes moody. If you come in and you're excited, everybody's excited. So we have to realize that we have that power to shape the mood, or the environment, the feelings of the people in your immediate environment. So you can't use that to play.
But it's something that they need to learn, because if the man needs to show it, they should please show it.
Yeah, they should please show it. They should also know that it's okay.
Because it's human.
It's human. If tragedy happens and he needs to express it, I remember when I had sorry for bringing this up, I had a small run-in with scammers, and I was visibly defrauded of almost 7 million naira, you know, and this was just me where they talk, say, nobody feels scam me for this life, or more scams come in some really unique shapes and forms these days, you know. So I literally lost it. My wife was there and I was screaming profanities to the high heavens, you know, pulling my shirt, and, you know, I was like, how the hell did this happen to me? You know, and that was a vulnerable moment for me, you know, and she had to watch me take it. I mean, or watch me express it. And I didn't want her to, you know, stop me or calm me down, because this was my own way of venting, you know, and I mean, kudos to her. She understood and, you know, handled the situation pretty well. I don't think she could have done any better than what she did, so yeah.
Awesome. All right, so Mr. Abe, thank you so much.
Yes. So I also agree empathy, but the other one I would like to also take on is discipline. So discipline is something most men lack, you know. It's most men lack. And when I mean discipline, discipline also has to do with, because it has to do with the things they say, you know. When you make promises at home to your kids, do you keep to them? You know, are you faithful? It takes discipline, a disciplined person, you know, to keep to those things. You know, I remember my daughter, some months back. I only promised them, that was before the Christmas now. I promised them I was to get them something, an item. It was this, what they call that now? Overboard. Okay. And she knows that I have never, each time I say, because I'm very careful not to say anything. So she knows that I've not disappointed them in things I say, I've not faulted before. So she said, I promised them that I'll get them the overboard. I said, yes, but, and the reason why I have slowed down was I looked at the costs and also look at their age, you know, to say, do they really need it now? Zoe is just 5, you know, how is she, you know, but I've seen, 5 years children using it, but I'm just scared. So I just told her, what I did was I told her, yes, it's still in plan, but in the meantime, I have this set plan B for you that I'm getting for you. She said, okay, no problem. Last week again, she reminded me, and the thing she now said was, Daddy, you've never disappointed before.
You're a man under pressure.
I'm telling you. That was the next thing that came out of my. She said, Nita now backed her up and said, yes, that is true. You have never.
I have put fire.
I'm telling you. So when I said, yes, it has also not changed. Okay. You know, it has not changed. So, but it now dawned on me, like, assuming I'm that kind of father, you know, that make things and don't keep to, make promises and don't keep to them, you know, they would have taken it some type of way. You know? So, but it's something I'm conscious about, you know, to be disciplined. And it takes a disciplined person to be able to keep to their words, you know. It takes a disciplined person to be able to say, do what they say, you know, that kind of thing. So.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. A very quick one. I know Mr. Muna started off saying that the mom is the softie, right? That is the disciplinarian. So yourself and your wife, who is the nurturer, disciplinarian, and how have you been, you know, this goes to both of you, how have you been able to handle, you know, the front where you're both not in agreement, you have your children there, have you just been able to handle such situations?
For disagreements, I mean, earlier in our marriage, we had, you know, the points, and I think those were learning moments for me, because I'm naturally loud, right? I have a loud voice. So if I get upset and agitated, my voice tends to, you know, increase.
That's like me too.
Like you know, so it was a learning. I had to learn to be able to control, you know, my voice, even though I was upset. You know, and I saw how that translated to the way our kids perceived when daddy and mommy were not in agreement. You know, then once my voice goes loud, daddy, why are you shouting at mommy? You know, those kind of things. But now now that I've learned and everything, they almost can't decipher that there's an issue. You know, they just hear a lot of no's, and so if they're even going to say anything, it's like, Daddy, why are you telling mommy no? But it doesn't go as much as, oh, stop, or even in, so it's a tricky, it's a tricky situation to, you know, walk around. Most of the time when we have to disagree, we go up into our rooms, lock ourselves in our room and hash it out, you know, without the kids being there. If you're in a smaller home, then it might be a little bit more tricky. But I think ultimately the best way to handle it is even not to have any conflicts at all, right? Now, that's almost can't ever not happen, you know, but you could manage it to some level or some degree, you know, which will, you know, hopefully not have, you know, a negative impact on your kids. Yeah, so.
Okay.
So for us, what we'll do is, if we have any conflicting agreement on an issue or maybe a particular topic, and most times is when we're teaching the kids something. So what happens? So because my wife she's so more, just like you said earlier, you look for a niche. So one of the things I do, I'm like the person that simplifies concepts. So because both of us have a passion of being involved in their lives. So I saw that each time I want to intervene or I want to get involved, you know, she has this boundary, so I just step aside, and then allow her to do it, you know, because she's also doing it well. So why will I, you know, she's doing it well. So the only time I will intervene is when I now see that the child is having challenges understanding a concept. So when I see that, I will now come in, and the way I do it is sometimes I will call her into the room and said, I'll just tell her, let me come in. And sometimes I will go to her, and she also understands. So I'll say, don't worry, let me attend to her, you know, and then I will just come in. But aside of that, if there's any misunderstanding that we have, we trash it inside the room. Yeah, that's what we do.
That's a good one. All right. So I think we've had a good time talking this afternoon. But before we close, because I feel there are fathers out there who, you know, they're going through a whole lot. And whether we like it or not, there's something that you've, you know, spoken or you've said that would impact them. And I'm just trusting that this would, you know, help the fathers who are discouraged or in very difficult situations, at least. Whether you're a disciplinarian or you're an enforcer, you're the softy, whatever it is, you've heard a whole lot and you've seen that this is a journey and I can learn and become better me. So lastly, I would want to know, like we said, we started from the past into the present, and let's go into a bit into the future, which is legacy for fathers, right? We're not discussing that so much, but I'll just quickly say, just read it. If you could only leave your children with one character trait, not money, because fathers, we think sometimes our fathers felt that always money, lands and all that, and not titles, but one part of your soul, one part of your life, what would you want them to carry to the next generation? What would it be for you?
All right, so for me, one thing I strongly don't joke with is integrity. I believe that my name is more powerful than anything I own. And so I can do anything to keep that name. So I want to build integrity in them. I want to teach them how to be someone that you say you say you want to do this, you stick to it, you make promises, you keep them. You know, a man that or a child that people can look up to. You know, you don't be, because growing up it was the opposite. You know, growing up it was the opposite that we learned, and I didn't really like it. You know, so I want my child to have integrity. You know, to live up to their full potential. You know, that's what I want.
Thank you so much.
I think I agree with him, because I mean, when you're long dead and gone, the best thing you can have is, the only thing that outlast you is your name. And your name your generations unborn, the generations that come after you, that's literally, I mean, they can go ahead to make their own wealth, make their own path and everything, but your name, keeps on. I'm still bearing my grandfather's name. And I know anytime we speak about our grandfather, he's a man of integrity. That's all what we hear. So if anything, my surname is associated with that, with the past, with the present, and it's my responsibility to be able to pass it down to the future. So I would say integrity and everything that, goes with it. Honesty. Reliability. Your word is your bond. Trust. I think those things are, like you said, way worth more than money or any of those other, worldly stuff. And also a strong moral code. A strong moral code that anybody can go to bed and say, this is who this person is. I think it's also important because that's how I've, modeled my life. I don't think anybody out there would hear, oh, Muna was this, and they'll be like, nah, that's not the Muna,
Exactly.
So I would want my children to also have those qualities,
Yeah, thank you so much for having you here today. And to everyone who is listening, thank you so much for joining us on this table talk show today. I'm hopeful that you like it. Subscribe, comment, and just share your thoughts. And if there is something you feel you want to share with someone, feel free. Our email will be, in the description box. So please feel free to reach out. And once again, I would say thank you. We'll see you really soon on the next show. Thank you. Have a great day.